to want to play in the Olympics?
I had an opportunity in '88 that I regret. It was actually when one of my second son, and I had 2 little boys at that time. It was in Seoul. It was the first year of the medal, and here's another problem I had with the ATP. They sort of made me strike a deal where, because I had been hurt early in the year, if I played the 2 weeks during the Olympics, they would cut out the other ones that I owed, because I quite honestly couldn't have made them up at the end of the year anyway, so I cut this deal. And I regret that because I didn't perform and didn't play. I mean, in some ways, Seoul wasn't my ideal choice to play the first Olympics. I mean, there was 800 people in the finals in a 12,000-seat stadium for tennis. 2 of the top 10 players played the Olympics in '96. 4 of the top 25 players.
But is it too late?
I don't know. Ask the people that pick. I would say, listen, if they told me I want you to play doubles in Sydney 2000, I'm there.
You're there.
I'm there.
Yeah. And if they said we want to make you Davis Cup for the next go-around, you're there.
I'm interested.
Interested.
Well, I'd like to know what my involvement is beyond being there 4 weeks a year. I don't consider that very. I'd like to be part of a program. For example, I'm interested in the idea of possibly doing something the other 49 weeks of the year at the U.S. National Tennis Center. What goes on there? Well, what better thing? I grew up 10 or 15 minutes from there. I'd like to be part of that. I'm available to try to get that. Theirs is about as good a location as you can hope for. So hopefully someone's watching. I know you have huge ratings for your shows.
I do.
Yeah. So hopefully some tennis people watch.
Well, we hope so. Let me go to a bunch of things I want to talk about. One is when you're playing, what happened between you and Connors in Dallas so that Jimmy walks off for 30 minutes?
Well, to be honest, I mean, nothing that hadn't happened 10,000 other times.
Which is?
Well, let me quickly go back just a second. Now, I have a new thing in my contract in the seniors that I have to question 2 calls a match, or I don't get paid.
So they want to see you.
They want to see me, yelling at the crowd, yelling. So I have to oblige them. It's a tough job.
Sure it is.
So what happened was he was playing.
Pick your spot.
It was the reason he walked off the court, in my opinion, for 30 minutes. To be quite honest, it was about 120 degrees on the court.
Yeah.
And we're not used to that type of heat. No one is. You can watch anyone do it. It's not easy. He was playing unbelievable. I still consider the guy is a joke, how well he can play at 40. He's 46 now. He was up 3-2. It was 30-all. There was a ball that was clearly a mistake. There's no question about it. It was in. It was called out. I went up, and that was my first of 2 that I had to do. Lost the argument. Went back to return serve at 40-30. Someone yelled in the crowd to Jimmy, "Come on, Jimmy, be fair." Well, he got all upset about that. Who said that?
Who said that?
Walked around for 2 minutes. No one would own up to it.
He said, "Raise your hand."
Then he says, "Raise your hand, whoever said that." Well, that was my cue. That's it.
So he left the court.
Picked up his badge. Well, they said game, set, and match McEnroe.
He didn't come back.
Well, he didn't come back.
Hasn't spoken to you since.
Not spoken since.
I mean, has he sent word that you are the biggest jerk he's ever heard?
Yes.
Yes. He's had his emissaries speak to you.
The other tennis players have... See, I played events in Australia and Europe, and he played one in Japan.
Yes.
We didn't play the same ones, but that's exactly what I've heard.
It seems innocent enough. Hey, me, I'm the one who said it.
I came off the court, and after about 5 minutes, because they started booing me. That's why your ex-wife left you. I'm like, what?
What?
And so I started, and then I got in a shouting match. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm looking like the bad guy all of a sudden. I took the mic and said, look, I'm prepared to continue playing because I don't think, to be honest, the seniors tour is strong enough to have a situation where Jimmy, who's the biggest, or certainly me and him, are the biggest senior stars, if you want to call it that.
Right.
And we can't afford him to just walk off. So I walked off the court and went to speak to him.
Right.
And I said, Jimmy, I mean, what's going on? I mean, come on, we've had worse arguments in practice. And he just said, I don't need this anymore. I'm too old for this. He's been saying that for about 2 years.
Yes.
This is like a running commentary that he does. And then he just, eventually I said, come on, let's just play. I mean, we owe it to these people to play this match. Now, I was risking something, and quite frankly, in some ways I wish I didn't do it, but I care about the sport more than making some stupid victory in Dallas over like 3-2 default. We ended up splitting the first 2 sets. I don't know, they think we're well, Jimmy changed the rule actually a couple of years ago that we don't play a third set, we just play a tiebreaker. Because he doesn't want to play a third set. Jimmy picks the players, Jimmy makes the rules.
Jimmy and Ray Benton.
Well, no, Jimmy and Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Ray Benton's there, but it's Jimmy and Jimmy. And so what happened is that, sure enough, yours truly choked.
Yes, he did. Yours truly lost.
11-9 in the tiebreaker.
And so you were
No, but here's the funniest part. Of all, the funniest part to me is when he hits this incredible forehand drop volley to win it. And I'm running over, and I'm thinking to myself, I lost this. How did I lose this? And I start to walk up to shake his hand. I said, wait a minute, I'm not going to shake his hand. The hell with this. This is crazy. I refused. I looked up. He'd already sat down. He wasn't going to shake my hand.
Had no attention. No, but here is what happens. You go back to your hotel room because you're going to catch your plane or something, right?
You
got
know
a plane.
all this.
I know this story. So you're going to go catch a plane.
I missed my plane.
You
yeah.
missed your plane because
he had stalled.
And because you're worried about this, aren't you? You're going back to your hotel room and you're sitting to yourself saying, how could I let him do this to me?
Exactly.
Right? He's got me again.
Coach Rose is right again. He got me, and I called my wife, and he's like, don't let Jimmy get to you. Everyone said this, like, don't let him. Are you crazy? This is the best guy of all time of doing that. And he's one of the greatest players of all time. You combine that. And he did something incredible. He managed to go from holding the old, pelotas when he was in the 70s to somehow, I'm giving them what they want in the 90s. People eating out of his hand, which I never was able to do nearly as well as he did. I was too busy, somebody, yeah, John, shut up, I just mishandled it. And it's unbelievable that he can still pull this off as well. He does this incredibly well. I mean, there should be a book written about it. Pete Sampras and, everyone else
should read the book.
Now, it doesn't,
Connor's on crowd control.
Exactly, because it is the most, let's face it, though. I mean, he's brought an energy level to this game that perhaps no one else has. I'd like to think I'm in the same league, but he's the king.
What can't you do on the court that you could do? What happens at 40 to change your game? Doubles, you think you're probably just as good because you don't have to run as much.
The hands. It's
the hands?
No, that's because I have the hands still.
Yeah.
What I don't have is the legs and the ability to move to the net and get down and back up from a position where a low forehand volley to get back up in position to be ready for the next one. I'm a little sluggish, more sluggish. I'm just frankly not as good, and that was what separated me. So Connie Hawkins said it best, the older that I get, the better I used to be. I'm trying to stave off, and I actually feel like I'm playing about as well as I played the last 6, 7 years, right? When
Before the comeback or during the glory years?
No, not the glory years. I'm talking about from like the 90s.
Okay.
90s. I know it's not saying what it was, but I was, I got to the semis of Wimbledon in 92, the semis of the Open in 90. I lost to some brash nobody named Sampras.
Right.
The semis of Wimbledon in 89. I was there, and I was this close, I felt, to winning the majors. And I was winning other events, and I felt I was in the, I was in the top 10, but that, eventually was not good enough.
Is anything you could have done, practiced more, been more intense, anything to have won more and done better than you did? 77 single titles, 77 doubles titles.
I'm sure that if I had trained harder, and as a matter of fact, if I hadn't gotten in amount of confrontation I did, because it kept me away a couple years at Wimbledon. I wasn't injured. I just decided I wasn't emotionally. I lost the intense. it was too much for me. I didn't play in 86 or 7. Those are 2 years that I could have won the tournament. I mean, Pat Cash, who happens to be a mate of mine and only won one major, won in 87, and 86 was Boris's second win. And, I would have loved the chance to play, but I never played Boris at Wimbledon. I would have loved that opportunity to play someone as great as he was on that surface. But
the reason you didn't play, you sort of said, I'm going to stick it to them. You need me more than I need you, and so I'm not playing.
Not exactly. I needed to be sane more than I needed to play. I needed to be like a decent father and hopefully a decent husband, which I found I was being less of than I could have been. And I chose to prioritize that more than I chose to just sort of putting that aside and saying, look, I'm going to win at all cost. And it cost me. But at the same time, I wouldn't change it because I don't believe that you should have children in order so that you could say, okay, I'm going to be gone all the time so that I can win one more slam. I should have been able to win it with them, is the bottom line. I mean, it's not just that. There's other things, not training enough, going out and going to too many parties. There's
all that.
All of that. There's no question about it. But at the same time, I enjoyed the position I was in. I mean, it's quite a lonely place to be year after year, where you're just you're at this, where like Pete is. I mean, you get less and less friends. You're more and more alienated, and it wears on you. And the traveling, and you want a real life. At 25, 26 years old, I've been on the road 35, 40 weeks a year for 7, 8 straight years. You start to get your first place to live. And all of a sudden you say, my God, it's nice to have a house that you can spend some time in.
Come home to.
And of course you lose a little of that intensity or desire.
That's what